Today we're going to be doing lesson 1.3, which is on solving equations by multiplying or dividing. So just like in the last lesson, we're going to have to isolate our variable or get our variable by itself to solve it. So in order to solve an equation with multiplication and division, we're going to do inverse operations. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing, opposite of dividing is multiplying. Remember, what you do to one side of the equation, you also have to do to the other. Okay, that's called the inverse operation. So we're going to start by looking at example 1. Okay, we have two parts here. Let me get my focus back. For part A, we have -4 equals k divided by -5. Okay, that's a fraction. Fractions represent division. K over -5 means k divided by -5. So the opposite of dividing by -5 is going to be to multiply by -5. Because what's happening here, I'm going to write -5 over 1. -5 over 1, because -5 over 1 is the same thing as -5. Okay, I'm just putting it over 1. Here on the diagonals, -5 and -5 would simplify to just 1. Okay, so those would simplify to 1 because you can divide both of them by -5. And then you'd have k times 1, which is k. 1 times 1, 1. K over 1 equals k. You also have to multiply the left-hand side by -5. So -5 times -4 is 20. A negative times a negative is a positive, so this is a positive 20. So k equals 20 for part A. Part B, we have m divided by 3 equals 1.5. So m over 3 is m divided by 3. The opposite of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. And again, I'm going to write it as 3 over 1 so you can see what's going to simplify. And then I also multiply the right-hand side by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times m is m. 1 times 1 is 1. So m over 1 equals m. And then we just have to do 1.5 times 3. And that gives us 4.5. So in this case, m equals 4.5. There are 3 check it out problems for you to try. So go ahead and pause the video and then resume the video when you're ready to reveal the answer. So for A, we have p over 5 equals 10, or p divided by 5 equals 10. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 to isolate p or get p by itself. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1 times p is p. 1 times 1, 1. P over 1 equals p. And then 10 times 5 gives me 50. So for A, p equals 50. B, we have -13 equals y over 3, or y divided by 3. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. On the left-hand side, 3 times -13 is -39. Bring down my equal sign. 3 and 3 have the common factor of 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So over here, everything simplifies to just y. So y equals -39. C, we have c divided by 8 equals 7. So I need to multiply both sides by 8. 8 and 8 is both divisible by 8, so I'm going to divide that and I get 1. So I'm left with c on the left-hand side, and then 7 times 8 gives me 56. So c equals 56 is my answer. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and look at example 2. So we're going to solve by using division this time. So for A, we have 7x equals 56. 7x represents multiplication. It's 7 times x. So the opposite of multiplying by 7 is dividing by 7. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7. 7 divided by 7 gives me 1. So I'm left with 1x. And then 56 divided by 7 gives me 8. So x equals 8. For B, we have 13 equals negative 2W, or 13 equals negative 2 times W. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. 13 divided by negative 2 will give us negative 6.5. Or you could write that as negative 6.5. Okay, that would be accepted as well. And then the negative 2 divided by negative 2 gives you 1, so I'm left with 1W. Okay, so you can write it as W equals negative 6.5 or negative 6.5. You may have noticed that I've been writing division using fractions. If you want, when you're showing your work, okay, I'm going to show you. You can also just use your division symbol if you want. Okay, I show my simplification with division using a fraction just so I can see what's going to simplify and divide away with my variable. It's easier to visualize. Okay, so if you want to write it this way, that's fine. You'll get the same answer in the end. Okay? There are 3 check it out problems for you to try. So go ahead and pause the video. Take a moment to answer those on your own, and then resume the video when you're ready to check your answer. So for A, we have 16 equals 4C. It's 4 times C, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I'm left with 1C. So here, C equals 4. Example B, we have 0.5y equals negative 10. 0.5 times y, so I'm going to divide both sides by 0.5. 0.5 divided by 0.5 is 1, so I'm left with 1y, or just y. And on the right-hand side, negative 10 divided by 0.5 is going to give me negative 20. So y equals negative 20. C, I have 15k equals 75. I'm going to divide both sides by 15. 15 divided by 15 is 1, so I get k. And then 75 divided by 75 divided by 15 gives me 5. So k equals 5 for C. Example 3, okay, we have some coefficients that are fractions and some equations that have fractions actually on both sides. So remember that when dividing remember that dividing is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So here, when we have a coefficient of 5 over 9, to get rid of that, you can divide by 5 over 9, which I'll show you, or you can just multiply by the reciprocal right away. So I'm going to show you 2 ways with A, just so you can see where multiplying by the reciprocal comes from. So 5 over 9v equals 35. So this is 5 over 9 times v. So the opposite of that would be I'm going to divide both sides by 5 over 9. So 5 divided by 9 divided by 5 divided by 9 gives me 1. Okay, so that's going to be v. 5 ninths divided by 5 ninths is 1, so 1v. On this right-hand side, we're going to have to do a little bit more simplifying. So I'm going to rewrite this just off to the side here so you can see it. So we have 35 divided by 5 over 9. And remember with fractions, when we divide with fractions, we want to make our whole numbers fractions by putting them over 1. And then we do keep, change, flip. So we keep our first number, so keep 35 over 1, change division to multiplication, and flip 5 over 9 to 9 over 5. 5 over 9 and 9 over 5 are called reciprocals, okay? Because when you multiply them together, you get 1. That's the definition of a reciprocal. So here, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal to simplify. So you can simplify before you multiply if you want. I prefer to simplify first. If you like to multiply, then simplify, that's fine too. But 35 and 5 are both divisible by 5. 5 goes into 35 7 times. 5 goes into 5 1 time. So then when I multiply across, I have 7 times 9. And 7 times 9 gives me 63. And then 1 times 1 is 1. So 63 over 1 equals 63. So in this case, V equals 63. So that's one option. I'm going to rewrite my equation again. So 5/9 V equals 35. Now, if you notice that there's a fraction as a coefficient, you can go ahead and multiply by that reciprocal right away. So you can multiply both sides by 9 over 5. Because what's going to happen over here, the 9s will simplify to 1, 5s will simplify to 1. So you're going to be left with 1V. Okay? And then over here, I'm going to put 35 over 1. That's the same thing we just did up here. But we kind of get right to the point right away. So if this helps you, you can do it that way. But if you want, you can just multiply by the reciprocal right away. This will get you there a little bit quicker. So 9 and 9 will simplify to 1. 5 and 5 simplify to 1. So I'm left with 1V. And then over here, we already know 35 simplifies to 7, 5 simplifies to 1. 7 times 9 is 63, 1 times 1 is 1. 63 over 1 equals 63. So both methods will get you the same answer. Second method will get you there a little bit quicker. So then B, this time we have fractions on both sides. So I have 5 over 2 equals 4y over 3. I look at my variable term. My variable term is the term that has my variable in it. That's the term that I'm going to use the reciprocal for in order to get to 1, okay? Because I want to have one y in the end. So the opposite, or the reciprocal of 4 over 3 is 3 over 4. Because the 4's will simplify to 1, 3's will simplify to 1. So if I multiply the right-hand side, I also need to multiply the left-hand side. Okay? So 3 and 2 can't simplify, 4 and 5 can't, so I'm going to multiply across. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 2 is 8. On the right-hand side, again, the 4's and 4's simplify to 1. 3 and 3 also simplify to 1. So you're left with just one y, or y. So y equals 15 over 8, okay, and writing that as a mixed number, that would be 1 and 7/8. You could also write this as a decimal if you want, which is 1.875. So all three of those answers would be correct. It depends on what your teacher prefers, if they want you to write it as a mixed number, improper fraction, or decimal. It's kind of up to your teacher. But these would be 3 acceptable answers. Now we're going to look at the check it out problems. So go ahead and pause the video and try these ones on your own, then come back and check to see if your answers are correct. Okay, you want to practice these to make sure you're understanding before you listen to the answers. All right, so for A, I have -1/4 equals 1/5 B. Okay, my variable term has this 1/5 in front, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 5 over 1. I'm going to multiply the left-hand side by 5 over 1. So 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. And I don't want to forget that negative. That negative doesn't disappear because I have a positive times a negative, which is a negative. So -5 over 4. Right-hand side, 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1 and 1 is already 1. So I'm left with 1B. So here, B equals -5 over 4. Or as a mixed number, it's -1 and 1/4. For B, we have 4J over 6 equals 2/3. J is on this left-hand side, so I have to multiply by the reciprocal of 4/6, which is going to be 6 over 4. and I multiply both sides by 6 over 4. 6 and 6 become 1. 4 and 4 become 1, so I'm left with J. Right-hand side, 2 and 2 are both 2 and 4 are both divisible by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 3 and 6 divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 2, 2. And 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 over 2 equals 1. Okay, and you could have recognized that right away and simplified there, but I like to multiply and then just simplify one more time so I don't get confused. So for B, J equals 1. And then for C, we have 1/6 W equals 102. 1/6 is in front of my variable term, so that's what I want to get rid of. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 6 over 1. And over here, I can just leave it as 6. Okay, 6 divided by 6 is 1, so those simplify to 1, 1W. And then I just have to do 102 times 6, and that gives me 612. So W equals 612. So now we're going to go ahead and look at example 4. So let me pull up example 4. So in example 4, it's an aviation application. So it says the distance in miles from the airport that a plane should begin descending divided by 3 equals the plane's height above the ground in thousands of feet. If a plane is 10,000 feet above the ground, write and solve an equation to find the distance at which the pilot should begin descending. So here, the distance in miles from the airport that the plane should be descending, divide it by 3. Okay, so our distance in miles divided by 3 equals the plane's height above the ground, so plane's height above ground in thousands of feet. Right now we have 10,000 feet. So how many thousands is 10,000 feet? That's going to be 10,000. So when we go write our equation, we're going to write our distance in miles, which is D, divided by 3, equals our height in thousands of feet. Our height in thousands of feet is 10. So we're going to replace H with 10. So now I have this equation, D divided by 3 equals 10. To get rid of this divided by 3, I multiply both sides by 3. This cancels and simplifies to 1, and I'm left with D. 3 times 10, 30. So the pilot should begin descending at 30 miles from the airport.